Hello, friends. It's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums today with a reading that I haven't really done in some time. I was kind of doing these when I first started to post a little bit more often on my YouTube channel. And then I got entirely too busy and too stressed with my day to day life stuff that I was not able to really do it as much as I wanted to, like to be as committed as I wanted to be on my channel. But now that things have changed in my situation, I decided, I was kind of trying to think of some stuff to do because I've been snowed in for the last couple of days. It looks like I'm going to be snowed in for the next couple of days because that's how Colorado is being at the moment. And that's why I'm having to use so many different lights. So hopefully the lighting isn't too crazy for you guys. But what I did want to say was I used to do these shadow work readings because I thought that it was a really fun way to connect to maybe some of the messages that we have been overlooking. I know shadow work is very popular in some, spiritual practices. It is something that I really love to use as a tool for my own personal growth. So today I wanted to kind of just focus on the shadow work that maybe we need to focus on at this time, because I don't know about you guys, but things have been really heavy or confusing or even feeling a little bit like hard to grasp in the sense of not really knowing what comes next, what we should be focused on, what really truly matters in certain ways. So today I wanted to just kind of do a general shadow work reading for, let's say, November, since I know we're already 7 days in. So again, my bad. And I know, like, with the things going on here in the US, like tensions are high. The energy feels very interesting. We do have a full moon in Taurus next Friday. So that'll be interesting to kind of see what goes on with that energy and anything else that may be coming up, because the planetary, alignments at the current moment are kind of intense. Pluto is at 29 degrees. Like, it's just been a lot of turmoil and confusion. And as someone that is currently in the middle of her own kind of confused time period too, I totally get it. So I wanted to just kind of dive in and see what the messages are, what we need to focus on shadow work wise. So, all right, we're going to do, I feel like this one. Reverse, yeah. And I'm going to kind of focus on maybe these are the aspects of ourselves that are currently blocking us, right? We'll do, what do we need to do to heal, to change them? The 5 of Swords, of course. And then we'll do a, what actions do I need to take to act towards my values? We'll do, okay. We'll do those guys. I'm going to pull some other cards too, because I wanted to kind of talk about these other aspects too, to kind of help illuminate where we're at or things that are important. I guess both of these wanted to come out. Spirit self and inner integration. I really hope that I have enough space over here. I always say I'm going to like do this in a way to where it's going to make sense, but your potential is ripe. And then we'll do a dark mirror card. Fated to suffer. Interesting. Okay. We're going to put these guys over here for now, and then we'll put these guys here. Hopefully everything is in frame and at least fits. I'm going to just check real fast just to make sure. All right. And I'll kind of lift them up so you guys can see more of the detail. So, the very first card. And I kind of focus on like what aspects of ourselves are currently blocking us. So here we have the Ruler of Wands, which I'm assuming would be like the King of Wands reversed. So maybe we haven't really been leaning into creativity, momentum, movement. Maybe we've been blocking some of those aspects within ourselves, or we just really feel like this is not the time for us to kind of lean into those aspects of who we are. When I think of wands, I think of passion and drive and like creativity and like what lights you up, what makes you feel connected, what makes you feel excited about the next thing. And so I think that this is almost saying that our shadow side is kind of blocked by us not really leaning into creativity, not really leaning into what we really enjoy. Maybe we've been stagnant. We haven't really been going in the direction of what we should really be doing. And so we're feeling a little bit of this blocked energy that's making it feel stifled, that's making it feel like someone is kind of smothering our fire, or not allowing us to really show up in the ways that we would like to. So there is a little bit of this sense of maybe we also struggle a little bit with feeling empowered within ourselves, because the kings are very much like the understanding of the entire suit, but then also having the maturity to do something with it. So this is going to be very much this energy of like, what are we going after? Like, what is it that's been driving us? What is it that we understand within ourselves is exactly what we need at this time? And so there is a little bit of this energy of maybe we've been blocking ourselves because we don't feel connected to what we're doing. Maybe we haven't really checked in to say, what is driving me? What's making me feel excited? What's making me feel on fire? What's making me feel like things are finally moving in the direction of what I want? And I know a lot of us have been struggling to coexist in this world. It's it's just crazy out there, right? Everything's so expensive. A lot of us are having to make sacrifices and choices that maybe feel really out of alignment with what our spiritual self really wants us to do. And as a human being here living in the US, I get it. It's very challenging to not feel caught up in that energy and to not feel afraid of trying to break free and do your own thing, or to take a risk in a way that makes sense. And that's the thing with shadow work, is that it isn't so much to say, oh, this is what you're doing wrong. Maybe it's more of a recommendation and shining a light on where you're not paying attention, where you're neglecting, where you're forgetting who you are and what you need. Now, for what do I need to do to kind of heal, to change this blockage, we have the Five of Swords. Now, I feel like I've been pulling this card so much for myself because it is very much like this win or lose kind of energy. It is a card that really talks about the obstacles, the conflicts, the changes, but this is like that mental game, right? It's very much talking about where we are maybe forgetting to kind of connect in some way with what it is that we're doing. And I think with this, it's almost saying like maybe what we need to do to heal this is that we need to stop feeling like we are in competition, or we have to be the most right at some times, at some point. And that's the thing with winning or losing, is that if there's a winner, that implies that there's a loser. And so life isn't always that way. Just because you win doesn't always mean that, you're getting exactly what you want. And just because you lose, it doesn't always mean that you're missing out on something that you wanted as well. And I think with this, it's almost saying like maybe we need to look at not being so stuck on worst case scenario or best case scenario or things like that. Like where maybe we're kind of looking at it as like collectively we're struggling a little bit with what is the opportunity here? Because I think with the Five of Swords, it can really reflect on not really paying attention to what's actually going on because you're too distracted by what's in front of you or what's calling your attention at the current time. And I know here in the US, we just had the elections. A lot of things have kind of not panned out the way some people had kind of anticipated or hoped for. And there's been a lot of disappointment. There's been a lot of this energy that feels, there's a lot of turmoil, right? There's a lot of energetic turmoil, and that is very much affecting the scope of how a lot of us are dealing with things at the current moment. So I think that this is almost saying like maybe we need to kind of reflect on what we're carrying within ourselves, what we're carrying forward in our lives at the current moment, as well as how we're showing up. Are we coming in with this like I need to be the person on top. I need to be the person that wins. I need to kind of beat out the competition kind of energy. Or are we forgetting that maybe we need to be collaborative and collaborative with ourselves too, especially when it comes to that energy of that King of Wands reverse, where it's like maybe we're not paying attention to that energy within ourselves. And so it's making us feel a little bit unruly whenever we are not comfortable in our own sovereignty, or we're not comfortable in empowering ourselves enough to say, hey, enough is enough. I want to do something else. All right. So what actions do I need to take to act towards my values? We have the Six of Coins, which is very much a card of like giving and receiving. It is the spiritual number of rewards and responsibilities. So it is very much this card that's kind of saying like we need to bring things back into balance. We need to maybe reach out to the people that are around us. We need to not be afraid to find the people that are going to see us for who we are, that are going to show up in our day-to-day lives. Because when I think of the coins suit, it is essentially earth, right? So it's the physical, it's our home, it's our body, it's our career, our money, our world. And this is almost saying like we need to kind of show up a little bit more. With this being a shadow work reading, I feel like, especially kind of showing us like some of the blockages that we have right now, is that we need to kind of work on being more proactive in what we say we're going to do. And whether that is like showing up in community, showing up for the people that, you know, really need you at this time, even being more proactive as far as like what it is that you're asking for. Like it's that push and pull. It's both. It's not just one way or the other. This is like saying, okay, maybe you've been isolating yourself and feeling really alone in some ways, and you haven't really been connecting to who you are and what you want. And this is kind of saying we got to bring that back into balance. We have to be aware of what we are giving ourselves to, what part are we investing in at this point in time, whether that's within ourselves or the people that are surrounding us at this time. So I think that these three cards are kind of saying that a lot of the feelings or the turmoil that we are internalizing at this time has more to do with certain aspects of ourselves versus like this like faded element that is like outside of who we are. So I think it's almost just saying like maybe take some time out to reconnect with yourself and to not overthink so much or feel like you have to isolate yourself in order to kind of achieve what you're trying to do, because maybe it's more about that community, that connection, that, you know, saying, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing. Can someone show me? Can someone help me? Can someone, you know, teach me in some way? So I feel like these cards are kind of redirecting that energy in some way. So I feel that maybe there's a lot of potential that we need to kind of focus on so that that can grow. And I think that's what these other cards are kind of pointing to. With the Dark Mirror card, because before I go into these, I want to talk about these cards because they're a little bit more harsh. Now, this is a Dark Mirror card. Now, these are very intense kind of cards. They're like very much going to call you out on your stuff. They're very much going to be like, hey, this is what you're doing. This is what's wrong here. So here we have, it looks very much like Snow White, someone kind of being offered this poison apple, fated to suffer. Now, when I think of that terminology, so many of us, especially when we have been going through a lot of challenges, a lot of growth, a lot of experiences that maybe haven't panned out how we had anticipated, we may feel like things are not on our side. Things are not really going to work out no matter what we do. And I think with fated to suffer is that maybe it's kind of reminding you that what you think, what you believe, what kind of programming or stories or, you know, like where your confidence is, that is where you're going to operate from at all times, whether you realize it or not. And as someone that has had an extremely challenging financial year, and that has had to really shapeshift what stability means to me this year. And as a Taurus, very uncomfortable. I don't like that. and, currently really struggling to find renewed employment and things like that. This is something that I have had to kind of reflect on within myself of like, what do I believe I'm willing to have? What do I believe of these situations and stuff? Because it's so easy to get caught up in like a negative thought cycle or a negative like consciousness program or whatever, or pattern within yourself of, oh, this never works out. Oh, this never really turns out the way that I want to. Oh, I never get what I want. That kind of verbalization and affirmation, so to speak, is kind of helping you remain in this kind of energy of being fated to suffer. And I think with these other cards where maybe you feel like you are being put to the test to kind of question, who you are, what you believe in, what you have going on. And it's hard for you to say, I need to ask for help. As much as I have helped others, I also need assistance. And fated to suffer is almost saying like, hey, are you just going to sit back and consistently take the blows quietly? And I guess I really needed to hear this myself today, because I'm getting that like recognition ring in my ear of like, ding, 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 there we go. But with fated to suffer, I feel like it also can be a little bit challenging to kind of look at, where in your thought processes you've continuously held on to these stories, or you've continuously held on to these things that feel, not to say that they're comfortable, but you're used to them. And at least sometimes it's easier to reject something before you even have an opportunity to see if it's going to happen for you, because then it feels like there's a little bit of control. And I think with fated to suffer, it is very much a card of like establishing some sort of control, maybe leaning too heavily into these lessons and kind of saying, oh, see, I knew things weren't going to work out the way that I wanted. So it's obviously not going to be how I thought it was going to be. And it is something that is challenging. Now, I don't know how to say this word. So y'all, I guess if y'all want to clock me in the comments for it or whatever, but I'm assuming it's nascent, like ascent or nascent. Your potential is ripe. I have no idea what this means. Except for that your potential is ripe. So we're going to look into the Lost Oracles guidebook, because your girl does not know what that means. And she's over here not going to struggle her way through trying to guess what that is. So this is talking about the emergence of an opportunity that has been quietly growing, nurtured by the seeds of the past. This is a moment of realization. Your future potential is rapidly ripening. The time has come to review the plans you once set in motion and reflect on the dreams and hopes that seem to yield no fruit. You were not patient enough to know then what you can know now. So the red ladder against the tree symbolizes the willingness to take proactive steps towards your aspirations. Revisit your goals with fresh eyes and an open heart. Trust again in something or someone you once believed in, for they may now hold the key to the promise you seek. Life seasons bring cycles of growth, and what may have seemed dormant is now ripe for harvest. So, I think that this is almost just kind of saying that, again, it's almost like you need to kind of ask for help. You need to not just suffer by yourself. And everything here is an opportunity to learn, to evolve, to reach higher states of understanding, really connecting to the possibilities that life really is very dynamic. And this is like your invitation to kind of approach each step with vitality and zest, and looking at the possibilities that are coming up ahead and not being afraid of what that looks like. And I think it's funny because it's like we have the apples here, we have an apple here, we have another apple here. What is going on with all these apples? I had an apple today. So I think it's more of just like recognizing that wisdom within yourself that maybe you've forgotten, because when I think of apples, I think of like the symbolism that, we kind of give them to teachers and things like that, some people cut them a certain way to kind of like indicate the pentagram, which is like as above, so below. And so it is, the 5 points that's supposed to kind of embody all of the elements in balance, like earth, air, water, fire, and spirit all together. And so I think that this is almost saying, like, take a moment to really appreciate what you have created for yourself. Like, what is your life's landscape? And acknowledge everything that you've done, all of your achievements, what you've conquered, and then really understanding that it's time for you to kind of move into that energy a little bit more. So I think that just like these cards over here, we're getting this invitation to kind of say, this is what we need to leave behind. And we need to understand that there's more there, that we have created more, but we have to also ask for that help and not just take everything as though we have to struggle along in order to receive it or to have it. Now, if we move on to the Lantern Oracle, there's these two cards I wanted to come out. First one is Spirit Self. So be who you are as you are. She also has an apple with a lot of light coming off of it. I think that this is pretty self-explanatory. This is just kind of telling you, like, hey, the way that you can work through the shadow aspects or the challenging feelings and emotions that have been coming up is to be who you really are as you are, to stop trying to whittle yourself down to make other people comfortable, to stop letting other people kind of like take your flame or smother your flame or feel like it's not okay for you to be who you are as you are. So many of us allow, our relationships, our career, our families, our, expectations or society to tell us how we're supposed to show up. And I think Spirit Self is kind of saying, like, enough is enough. The reason why you feel so lost and confused is because you're refusing to kind of show up as who you are, as you are. And the only way that you'll get that clarity is by showing up authentically in that energy. The only way we can do that is by not having that mental war within ourselves and feeling like, well, if I'm this, then I know other people aren't always going to like that. And so I have to smother my own flame a little bit and kind of like dim my light in order to make others feel comfortable so that I can have that better balance. When in actuality, it's almost saying, like, because you're doing this, you're too much in your head. And so it's kind of throwing off that divine balance in your life. And I think that finally we have inner integration, which is kind of telling you, like, hey, you have to kind of take all of the parts of you and be okay with using all of them together. I know so many of us have talked about inner child work or inner teenagers or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with having that inner child like healing journey, which is really beneficial, especially if you have had a lot of trauma or if you've experienced a lot of challenges and difficulties in your life that you're starting to notice there's a lot of patterns within the behaviors. Inner integration can be a beautiful tool to empower you and to allow you to really step up fully into all that you are. So this is just kind of telling you that there is peace, there's equilibrium, there's fulfillment in integrating the inner wild with the taming and tempering effect life has on us. And I like that it's talking about the inner wild instead of the inner child, because this deck really focuses on the maiden, the mother, the guardian, and the crone. So that's who we see here, is all of those aspects of this person. The youthful maiden, the inexperience, the mother, the one that's like coming in and worried with, trying to take care of everybody else. The guardian that's like, okay, I'm ready to kind of do something more than what I've been doing. And then the crone using all of her experience and wisdom to be able to impart that on others in a way that is of benefit. And I think inner integration, especially for you to really feel comfortable in your spirit self, you have to kind of integrate all of the different things within yourself that maybe you haven't really given yourself to be. Life is a series of us continuously discovering who we are and unfolding and really moving into ourselves fully. And it can feel very confusing, especially if you feel like you're someone that's changed a lot throughout your life, like maybe you're like, oh, I used to be very much into this one thing and I was devoted to that other thing, and then I was this and then I was that. And that's the thing, is that I think a lot of us forget that we have to give ourselves that grace and understanding that we are constantly changing. We're never going to remain the same. Nothing in life is static, and we're not meant to be so. We don't get upset that we don't fit into things that we had as children, because we have this understanding that our bodies have changed, we have grown, we have become something else, we are adults. But yet, sometimes we hold ourselves to that same like level of, oh, well, I used to always be this way, or I was always like this, or whatever, without taking into account how much our experiences are constantly informing us, and what that means for us as individuals. So I think that this inner integration is one of the ways that can allow us to work on our shadows so that we can really truly see the potential that is trying to develop in order for us to really truly grow. So I think shadow work for this month will be very much about reflecting on some of the old stories and things that maybe no longer make sense for who we are and what we've become. Understanding that we have planted seeds that have been growing for a long time, and we deserve to have an opportunity to live a life full of vitality and connection that allows us to rise up out of places that maybe we feel we've outgrown, while also understanding that by recognizing all of the places that we've been, all of the people that we've been, all that we are, we can really truly understand who we're supposed to be right now as we're supposed to be, and really reconnecting into a place that brings a lot more balance with a lot less conflict, and allowing us to not feel like we have to dim our light in order to make other people comfortable. So I hope that this made sense. I know it's kind of all over the place. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys even like these shadow work readings? I think that they're fun, but I know it's not always for everybody. I really hope you enjoyed. Please take care, stay safe, and as always, make good choices. Bye.